Today we welcome Newport City FC Sam Houldsworth to the non-league radio show. Welcome, Sam.
Nice to be here, and thanks for having me.
Not a problem. Before we get on to your role at the club, I just want to find a little bit about yourself, your background, when you first got involved in football, etc., etc. Just go for it.
Okay, right. So it's just always been a thing for me as in football. As long as I can remember, I've kind of played. It's from Devon originally, but my dad was someone who's from Mansfield, so I've always kind of been like a Mansfield Town fan, / being kind of forced to support Man United, which was great. It was great back in the day. Now I've got to kind of stick with it and stick through the pain. But it's one of those things where I always love football, always been involved in it, always played. And then after times at the start where I was kind of playing and picking up on trials and down Devon, like looking at going to Exeter and Plymouth and that, just not ever kind of making the cut, but jumped into playing senior football at the age of 15. I was in men's football down in Cornwall. It was kind of, things went really well at the start, and then I kind of progressed there. And as a family, we moved up into Wales. So we came to Monmouth, which is, funny enough, who we're playing on the weekend. We're playing them. I went and joined them, kind of started playing with them in Gwent County. And it was about this time when I went to university. So I went to UWIC at the time. And within football, then I picked up a job with a company called Inspire Sport, which was taking children on sports tours to live the life of a professional footballer. And things just started spiraling then. I was like a youth team coach for under-19s, and then I found myself at the likes of Valencia, Chelsea, Real Madrid, Villarreal. I was just at the first team training grounds all the time, meeting all these football players, and I was just in the thick of it, really. I was playing five-a-side with Mendieta at one point. Driving David Villa's car because I was deemed a lookalike, so I was trying to drive his car so the kids wouldn't. I'd had to sign all back. It was a strange time, and it was brilliant at the time. And I was 20, 21 in uni, and was going out with my friends and stuff, and then ended up coaching in Valencia a bit and joining. And just it was great. And then we here in Wales, then I kind of went into football with a club called Cardiff Corinthians, and then Pontypridd Town. And was involved heavily with, we had a talk sport Ponty party where we went out to Valencia and played Valencia under 23s with our team and took a bit of a hiding, but it was a great event and there was just fans from everywhere. The Ponty party, it was that Colin Murray had organised. It was brilliant. So we kind of went and did that. And then from there, I found myself 7 years ago, just taking the leap from what was a really successful team in Ponty Town and with steeped in history to go and take the leap and go into Newport City. And yeah, it's just been every weekend for as long as I can remember, it's been football. I can't think of anything else I'd be doing.
So being well-travelled, you've obviously picked up a lot of experience from different coaching styles, different nationalities.
Oh, yeah, like watching these coaches. And to be fair, every time I've gone to one of these clubs, and Chelsea was the first one I went to, I just looked and I was like, I was expecting something amazing, like these drills that just made incredible players, and they didn't. They just did the basics of what I was doing or what everyone does with maybe their under 10s, but it was just everything about like the quality of that and a simple passing drill and the kind of athletes that these players are and how quick their brains are. So it wasn't necessarily the coaching that was kind of like, wow. It was how organised everything was, and it was unbelievable.
So your roles, because I'm looking on Wikipedia, it looks like you're Mr. Newport City here, according to that chairman, manager.
Yeah.
So you're I guess you're doing a bit of everything.
Yeah, it's been that way. And like, when you tweeted, I'm on social media, I run the social media sites. I've become a jack of all trades. But this is like just changing now. So I can't remember when you got in touch, but a couple of weeks ago now with new owners in place. It's something I've been crying out for ages, and I've loved running the club and it's been great, but I've got 2 children under 3 now. So with COVID and the way football went, 2 children, got a family, and everything's kind of spiraled where I couldn't put my time in at the club, and the volunteers who were at the club were kind of there with me, helping me, and it was just spiraling where we're getting left behind. And that's why we found ourselves bottom of the league this year, because it's just too hard to keep up with things, and just one person can't run a football club of this size.
I agree. I'm going to talk about the stadium. You play at Newport Stadium, Newport. 5,058. It says here 3,200 odd seated. Just
we don't get that many fans.
I wonder if you could tell a little bit about the facilities.
They're the best in the league. This is really why I made the jump to the club, because it's almost like a few people have said it kind of higher up, and it's a sleeping giant, as in the facilities can go all the way through to Welsh Prem. Newport County had been their home ground before they moved to Rodney Parade. So Newport County has been in the Football League, English Football Pyramid. This was their stadium. They still train on it now, and we share it with Newport Rugby. So, but we don't own it. Newport Live own it, and they've been great with us, and we've got a lease there, and they've been absolutely brilliant with us to allow us to kind of like, as a club that's been struggling as well, use it. And we are kind of like one of their key clubs at there. And the rugby bring in like 3,000, and we've been bringing in like 30, 50 to 50 people. But it all changed with the new owners, and we had a stand that almost looked full the other day with 350 people in it. It actually looked as full as it can get. We actually had a roar when we scored a goal, which was a lovely surprise. But the facilities, this is why players have come here. This is why I came here, because the potential is massive, and it's a cracking facility. The pitch is brilliant.
So how many teams do you run at the club?
So it was one when I took over, and now we've got up to 5 or 6. So I've got the first team, then we've got the reserves, the women's team, and under 13s team. But COVID kind of killed off our under 19s, and then our women's had another second team that folded this year because of some league restructure. But we're going into next season, where next season we'll have under 5s through to under 19s and another 2 women's teams. The plan is huge.
And I'm guessing all the players in the first team are part-time.
They're all literally, well, up until this point, they're all just train once a week and play. They've had to pay subs to play. We're the only team in the league that's kind of got a limited budget. And that limitation has meant that these boys pay to play. So you look at like the Welsh Prem and Cardiff Met, and the amount of kind of money that's there and contracts are on offer. We've kind of had to work off a shoestring, which is why it's been so difficult. But anyone who wants to play football and just loves the game of football will want to play at that stadium.
Good stuff. And I want to talk about the league you play in. What standard is the league that the team? I see there's 4 different sections of that league. I was looking.
Yeah.
And lots of teams. I was just wondering what the standard is.
So tier 3, so you've got the Welsh Prem, and then you've got tier 2, which is Cymru South and Cymru North. So almost like your championship. So you've got your Premier Division, and you've got Championship North and South. And then we're in the next one, tier 3, and then you've got North, South, and Northeast, Southeast, Southwest, and Northwest. So the standard is improving. Like Noel Mooney, who is part of the FAW, came in, has tried to implement and really get grassroots going. And now we're counted as, in some areas, we're counted too high, as in they count as a professional team. So we've got a transfer window, which is ridiculous at the moment when you haven't got players on contract and you're not paying players. It's mad because, you know, people can just leave. There's no, you can't stop anyone from leaving, and players can leave to go to the leagues below. So we're in that position where it is what it is, but they're trying to get to a professional level, and it's almost like we're in that grey area now where they're trying to make it go from semi-pro to pro, but the finances aren't necessarily there in the league. But it's a good start. There's a long way to go, but Welsh football's definitely improving at the moment.
Promotion and relegation, is it one team up in a playoff, or is it
one team in playoff? Yeah.
And
so you've got the champ.
Yeah.
Go on, sorry.
So that, and from there, can you work your way all the way to the top?
Yeah. So there's nothing stopping us going up to Welsh Prem. The only thing that would stop you going all the way up is your facilities and meeting criteria. But there's whoever comes first gets promoted into the Cymru South. Second, then we'll play against second in the Southwest. So Southeast and Southwest have a playoff. Unasir it was who won it last year. And then relegation, there's 3 down, and the 3 down go to localised areas. So there's going to be a new split for the league again below. But what we would do is fall into, it's called Gwent County. So we'd be in more of a local league. And it's a big drop. It's a big drop of one where if we went down, getting back up would be very difficult.
Yeah, it's good with the promotion relegation. And I've supported a few Scottish teams, and some of their teams win the league, but then they have to play a playoff, which I think is very unfair. If you've won the league, you should be going up. But it's interesting, lots of teams. But before I started doing this research, I didn't realise there was that many teams in all these lower leagues.
Yeah.
And in the different leagues in different countries, like America, have got no promotion, and it's a massive issue for them.
Yeah.
But it's good that you can actually go from where you are right through to the top. And like you say, I'm guessing facilities is a big reason why people can't progress up if their facilities aren't to a certain standard.
Yeah, anyone who loves football and follows football, it's like, that's the whole thrill of it. And if you're winning, anyone can win a game of football in one fixture. So if you finish and you're the best team throughout the league, then go play a playoff game. It's crazy. So we've got that kind of setup where we can go all the way, and that's the plan.
I was going to ask before when you're on about the teams, do you still play?
No.
No.
I say no. So it's been about 6 or 7 years. I've done both ACLs now. So
all right.
I had to retire quite early, but our reserve team was short just before Christmas. And I was like, right, I'll go, but I shouldn't, because my wife would kill me if I got injured. So I went along, and then I got there and I was like, right, I've got to get on this pitch. I went on for 13 minutes and I got an assist on my first touch, and I scored the winner in a 5-3. So, but it wasn't enough to bring out retirement because I was in bits the next day. So, but no more football for me.
Not a problem. I'm just looking at the league table at the minute behind microphones.
Oh, don't.
So tell us about your league position at the minute as we stand.
Yeah, so we've had I say disastrous, you kind of, usually you look at a table and then you look at the bottom. And again, I follow a lot of Scottish football. My friend Ziggy used to play for Hamilton, Ziggy Gordon, and I found myself kind of following the football. And if you look at leagues, and same with like Welsh, you look at the bottom team, you think, and the goal difference, you think, they're getting hammered week in, week out, and it just looks the norm. But if you look at our fixtures and our result, we haven't. We've taken 2 or 3 where we've had big losses at the start where we're really short on players. Since COVID, it's actually been a real challenge. And I think people realise as well at our level that family life and home is really important, much more than people did kind of before COVID. And then coming out of that side, some people with financial struggles, work is more important than hobbies, unfortunately. Like work, it pays the bills. So we found it really difficult to start the season. We've had a good cup run in the Welsh Cup, so our league form has just been atrocious. And that's not just this season. For the whole of 2022, I think we won only 3 or 4 games. And given the quality of the players we've got, it falls on me. And I think the sign of running a club, washing kit, trying to sign players, sorting out everything else that goes on with the club, it took its toll alongside work and children. And the club is where it is, and a lot of it is down to me. Players have to take responsibility for how they play, but a lot of it's down to me. So having the new owners in that have come in, I can see us climbing the table, but we've got to win another 7 games to be safe. And we've only won 2 all year, so it's a big task ahead of us.
Just touching on your social media and the website, newportcityfc.co.uk. All of it's very good. It's excellent. The presentations of it's excellent. And then from you to say I'm washing strips and stuff, and then you look at all your social media and all of your website and stuff, you don't realise that people have to do those things. You just think you're doing a lot of it. But then you wouldn't think it on the outside, all these little jobs and the volunteers. And I want to speak about people you've got at the club who are the staff and the volunteers you've got.
They're unbelievable. To be fair, if you look on social media, I think we probably look professional. And a lot of that is down to me doing a little bit of editing and learning as we go along. But we've got a guy called Mac who's our photographer. He's been here for 5 years now. You won't mind me saying that, he had a difficult time. His wife had passed away. He's kind of here, and he used to work for South Wales Argos, and he's one of those that got kind of left a little bit, and COVID was a really tough time. And he's someone that I've grown to love so much because he's such a top guy. And he does this. He doesn't get paid. He comes in. He sits rain, shine, freezing cold. Bless him. He's got arthritis in his hands now, and he comes to the game, and he is a proper part of the club. And we wouldn't look as we do without someone like him. And grassroots. And this is where I think people need to get behind grassroots clubs, because people like him, given the opportunity to do something that he loves. And he just texted me before I spoke to you then, saying that he needs to keep busy. It's coming to a time where it's his partner's kind of birthday, and it's a tough time for him. And the club is everything. And we've got the same with a family whose son used to play for us, the Whiting family. They work in the kitchen, help on the gates. Scott, Samantha, Kerry. Without them, we can't do anything, because we can't even open the gates to fans. And then we've got Alan and Di, two guys who've been like, they're your guys that have been at the club since they were 20 years old. I don't know how old they are, so I'm going to go under. I'm going to say I'm going to say they're 50s, but secretly I know they're probably 70s. But you know, they live and breathe this club. There's more that I've missed, because we've got media people that help out on the day. We've got the new owners that are in. We've got stewards that are now coming in as crowds are growing, but they're the real heart of this club. And to be honest with you, when times I thought I'm just going to quit or I'm just going, it's them that I keep going for, because they put so much of their time in themselves.
Yeah, and I say this in every interview. I'm bored myself saying it, but the level of social media from clubs lower down, people who are putting the goals up or putting like the player who scores with the sponsors up, like instantly on match days, and a lot of people are doing live broadcasts from the matches, and it's blown me away, to be honest. The level of what people do,
brilliant
at lower league, it's excellent.
It's brilliant, because like you say, you just take it for granted when you just sit and scroll on your phone. You take it for granted of, you know, something like yourself with the podcast now, getting things organised, and the time and effort people put in, it's easy to take it for granted. But when you kind of scrape back a little bit of a layer and you dig deep, you realise how many people really are chipping in. It's amazing.
Yeah, and like I say, I can see it from just on a Saturday when I do the show and I'm trying to keep up with scores, and they're just flying in all over the place. And it's not just someone putting a score up; it's like you say, a picture of the player that they've obviously got added like sponsors to it. And I was going to touch on that. Sponsors must be a big thing for your club, trying to get sponsors and money in to keep things running.
Yeah, it's been one of the most challenging things for me, because going to businesses who are struggling themselves in difficult times, who want to support the club. For example, Newport Bus for us, local company who really get behind clubs. They got behind our women's team. They got behind all of our teams, but the women's side of things, and a huge kind of like donation for them, really, because what they get back is very little compared to like what they pay. But they totally understand that. And we go to their events, and they incorporate us. They put us on the side of the World Cup bus. They had our players printed on the bus. It was on our Twitter that they did a whole double decker for us, and they include us and they treat us as like partners rather than just sponsors that kind of need money, because our club just runs on sponsorship money. So going from them to give a huge amount of money to a match day sponsor that might give you £50, for me, they're just as important. And it's a hard thing in terms of going to people and asking for money in difficult times, but all those have contributed is what keeps this club afloat. And let's be honest, about grassroots football, nothing comes through for the professional game either.
What about your close staff? Have you got like an assistant coach, assistant manager? Any names you want to give a shout out on that front?
Yeah, well, to be fair, if I don't, they'll probably kill me on Saturday. So, I've got to, but you know, Peter Frankham, who is an ex-pro footballer himself, he's honestly, the boys call him Wayne Lineker, and he'll hate that because he's a silver fox, and he knows his stuff, and he's been with me now for 4 or 5 years by my side. Total opposite of me. He's cool, calm, and collected. I'm a bit of a Conte, maybe Arteta at the moment is a bit loose. He's a bit constant. So let's go down that route. But he's great. The boys love him, and we've got now Ewan Gunter, who a few clubs have been after. He's in as our kind of like main coach, and he's a young up and coming coach who's on his A license, and he's going places. As in, he will probably outgrow Newport City, but the plans we've got in place, I think he's here for the long term, and he'll come on the ride.
Great stuff. And one of the last things I want to touch on is the fans and supporters. You touched on earlier. What sort of fan base are we having? Like, obviously there'll be people on social media who maybe don't get the games, but just on a match day, what we're talking.
So I'm glad you called now, because our last game was absolutely unbelievable. I think we had 338 or something. For us, that's a huge one, and we had children.
That's good going, like 380.
For us, it's brilliant, because we're placed in Newport, which is obviously a large city, like third largest city in South Wales. But you've got Newport Dragons, Newport County, Newport Rugby Club, and there's someone else I'm missing, Newport Cricket. There's clubs that have been there that have got a big kind of hardcore following, or a more of an elite level than us. So in terms of us and the amount of football clubs in Newport, by the way, there's not just us. Just next door, we had our game on Saturday against Llanwern, and we're talking local derbies. We're talking 100 yards away is their pitch, and we were like right on top of each other. And in terms of them, they're a fantastic club as well, and they're like us. They run on sponsors, volunteers, and help. And something that I've learned of loving football and growing up and wanting to win is I'm trying to build the links with the clubs. We've got Newport Corinthians next door to us, league below. The manager Reese there and the owner there, they're fantastic people, all in the same position. All of us are trying to win games of football, but we're all trying to give something to the community. And Newport is full of great football clubs and rugby clubs and everything else for juniors. So for us, it's it's about making sure that as a club we try and do as much as we can. And the support that we've got from the Llanwern game was like, wow, this is incredible. Because usually, honestly, we'd get anything. Some days we could get 20. No one would come. If Newport County are playing in Newport Dragons, we get no one in. So we had 330. I think there's going to be about 300 at Monmouth, and then we've got a game coming up against Aber Bluebirds, and they've got a great following in the league. They've done really well. They get a couple hundred. I think we probably hit 600-700 mark, and this is some of the highest. This last week, the 338 was the highest attendance in all of Welsh football. We had more than TNS. So, it's going places. And if this and everything else that we do gets people in to come and watch and come and support us, I think the only way this club is going to go where it's going to go and move forward, even with the new owners, next gen have been pushing it with their children, is you've got to get people turning up to your games at our level. It's needed.
Yeah, definitely. Before I give the links out, I don't know if there's anything we haven't talked about that you want to bring up, or anybody else you want to give a shout out that we've maybe missed.
Yeah, to be honest, there's a few. I'm not going to go on like it's an awards night here, and I'm getting
just name drop away.
But I've got people like Martin Mikovic, who is a treasurer at the club. He's a player, and he's an accountant. He's a busy man. He's helped me as being treasurer at the club. I've got Spencer Wood, who's my captain, Dean Clifford, Jordan Frankham. These are some of the boys that are really they could have gone to other clubs. Like, clubs come in and obviously look to sign players, and we've got good players here, and they've stuck with me and they've got behind me, and they're the ones now that are really kind of kicking on and creating that core at the club. You know what? I might have to do something cringy, if my wife listens to this, honestly, my wife and her family could probably kill me for the amount of times I do not get my kids and I go to football. And football, we talk about Gareth Bale, he's got football, golf, Madrid. Rachel, my wife, has always said to me, it would be like football, work, kids, and her. And this, she knew what she was marrying in terms of someone who was a football enthusiast, but to come home from football and then I sit and watch football and just shout at the screen watching Man United, she's got the patience of a saint. But to be honest with you, the biggest thing is everyone that's kind of helped with our club, and even someone like yourself, anyone who's showing interest in Newport City, anyone who's liking anything on social media, or anyone who's following us, that for me goes so far, because anything that can help promote the club and football in the city of Newport, it's almost worth more than money, because we need that support. So I appreciate you getting in touch, because anything we can do to keep boosting stuff is much appreciated.
No, not a problem. The best link is newportcityfc.co.uk. That's got the links to Twitter, Instagram, everything on there.
Yeah.
And it's been great chatting to you, Sam.
You too. Thank you for getting in touch.
No problem. And I'll be watching out for you at the weekend.
Top man. Thank you very much.
Cheers.